also applies across the green belt. This will have a huge impact. So there's a bit of literature on screen here for any viewers who are just listening and not watching the video. If you wanted to pause this, you can have a little read through. Essentially, it's just looking at the kind of specifications of how they're sort of qualifying these areas. But Jack, do you just want to actually wait? Let me just pull the map up as well. So then here's a map of sort of affected areas. Jack, do you just want to speak to changes here?
So kind of the first slide that you had was Matthew Pennycook speaking, and effectively he's come out and said, you've got uh, an ideal scenario whereby the terms and conditions upon which we could potentially support development would be if you were within a reasonable walking distance. Now, what is reasonable? Reasonable could be 100 meters, it could be 1,000. Well, 800 meters has been quoted as a
How
reasonable
long does that
distance,
take
which
to
is
walk?
exactly. And if you go on the Chartered Institute for Housing and Transport, CIHT, that is our guideline that we tend to lean to in the industry. That is a circa, I think, 15-minute walk. Again, depending on if it's, buggy,
Yeah,
wheelchair
15
user.
to 20. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
ChatGPT says 9 to 10 minutes.
yeah, if it's raining. So you might get a
That's
move on.
a
But
fast
It
walk,
would
I think.
it would take Ryan a bit longer because he's only got little legs.
Little legs, mate. Yeah, over here. Double the step count.
but what they're talking about, and in terms of these bullet points that you can see, is effectively travel to work distance. So they will put not a p-tal rating, but they'll put a new kind of rating in terms of your distance to work, your distance to education, your distance to healthcare. And the best way to achieve that is via these transport corridors, which is your train stations and your main infrastructure. And the map that I've provided from Lichfields, again, Lichfields are the best in the business when it comes to planning consultancy. They've
Not as
produced
good
this
as
map.
Wilkinson Planning, but they're up there.
Yeah, you
They
need.
are up
Do
there.
you want to reframe that going forward, Jack? You want to say
The second best.
yeah,
Yeah, we will aim to be. We'll aim to be, but they are good in terms of responding pretty quickly to stuff. And the map that they've produced is a pretty clear indication. Again, subject to adoption of the new MPPF, of how this could affect England, um, and how this could play out in the main transport corridors that we see.
Can you just explain the orange dots and the grey dots?
Yeah, so basically, in terms of travel to work distancing, TTWA, they would like to see that you hit the orange markers as a starting point, and then the grey markers. So a tighter area would be acceptable, and then the wider area would be set in grey, would be potentially acceptable. So basically, they will look to sequentially and preferably develop certain areas. So if you've got a big train station in London or Birmingham or Manchester or your big cities, that would be preferable to develop around first, as opposed to, Manningtree, which is where I am close to in South Suffolk, to develop around there first, which is a very, very small train station. So they'll look to
Gotcha.
develop around your big cities first, effectively, your mainstream, again, arterial routes.
Infrastructure led. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely that.
And then next,
Just on that point though, quickly. So I think we're all aware that since COVID, there's been a shift in working in the office 5 days a week, and we've almost adopted this almost like hybrid working process where it is important to be in the office, but we're actually more independent and being remote and can work remote. Don't know how accurate this is, but ChatGPT says on the government transport statistics, 11% of Great British workers use the rail line. So let's just assume that's 7.5–8% of people going to work every day, because they might not be going in every day. Why is that all relevant? Like, I feel like they're a lot of this is building homes where the majority of the population don't need it?
I think they are looking to work with what they've already got rather than being a government that are perceived to cut up the countryside. And I think the markers that you can see on there, plus the dark sort of the turquoisey colour, are pretty much they're looking to develop in the most productive areas of the UK,
Yeah,
or
but
certainly England.
but is that because they're being led by big sites? So if this was brownfield SME developers propping up the majority of building, they wouldn't have to explore further than they wouldn't have to sprawl out into areas where they would have to have such a strategy against it. This strategy is more focused around the larger swaths of land that they can get consented, really make a dent.
Yeah, they want to see chunky numbers delivered on homes, and I think that is all well and good. And again, the industry goes through phases and supply ping pong as we call it, but that will have an effect for the SME and the smaller developer to then piggyback off of that. So these areas that are all of a sudden going to spring into life around train stations potentially could have a knock-on effect for villages. All of a sudden, a village in rural Suffolk, wherever it may be, could all of a sudden become very accessible based on these policies.
So coincidentally, the train station is a great location for developers to be building near. So surely the free market is already developing these sites. I can't see a world where the biggest and nearest train station I live near is Reading. And there's no sites around the train station. They're all being developed anyway. So where are they going to find this land? It's almost like I can't see. Yeah, granted, you might find a site a mile away that you could develop that might be more supported under new attitude of the government, but I can't actually see any easy wins there.
And this is the whole point of whether the policy that they're coming up with is actually deliverable and achievable. And it comes back to the basics of planning. To be fair, I mean, like you just said, if there's a site a mile away that's the nearest site to Reading, for example, that's not within 800 metres, so it's not going to be compliant. And it's almost like you're going to discount. I mean, these dots here that we're seeing on screen, the oranges preferably, and the grey, second preference potentially, they will fall away. But it's the drive and the notion to deliver that will trigger, hopefully, a change, and it's got to be delivered by local plans, the council. That's the issue. So they're going to have to find land, and I think the only way you can do that, which is another part of the MPPF consultation that's underway at the minute, is through denser developments, more homes on sites, building up, having denser developments.